I went full time in early 2021. It's crazy to think it's been like 4.5 years. Yeah, I came from a family business. My parents, or my mom and my grandfather and my aunt, we sold beer to the Ravens and Orioles, amongst other, in Baltimore. So we were a beer distributor. And so, the story that I always talk about that got me into sports business was we would go to the games, and my dad was a fan. My mom was the biggest fan I've ever seen. But my mom is the biggest fan I've ever seen because Ravens wins and losses dictated bottom line and beer sales. And if we ever got to the playoffs and hosted a playoff game, it was a bonus week. And if we could host two games and host the AFC Championship, we got two bonus weeks. And if you could win the Super Bowl, right? And the year that they sold the business, which was 2.5, 3 years ago, they sell the business probably in January. The next season, the Ravens host the first AFC Championship in franchise history. So, we always joke it was a sacrifice to get the Ravens. I wish that sacrifice had paid off that year. But yeah, that was kind of my introduction to it. And so when people say it's just a game, it is just a game, and the human child in us comes out. That's why we love it. But at the same time, anyone working in it knows it's way more than just a game. And there's dollars on the line. There's tourism on the line. There's families on the communities on the line. And so, yeah, I think from an early age, I was accidentally taught by my mom screaming why sports can impact other things in your life.
Well, and then, from after high school, I mentioned earlier you went to the University of Texas.
Yeah.
And what happened there, and how did you kind of get to where you are today?
I studied sport management there, and I love my professors. I'm still very close with them. I still go back and do a class every semester virtually for one of my professors. But I'll always say the program was easy, and it was easy because we would watch ESPN 30 for 30s and do book reports on that, and we would rebuild NBA 2K teams, and that was a class project. And so because of that, I definitely learned, but what I learned was two things. One, what to do in my free time, how to make better use of that. And so I started a business in college. And then two, it was what I didn't want to do. And like anything in life, all the things I realized I didn't want to do, events, PR, is what you need to do, and so you just get a really good idea of what you do and don't like to do in the business. But yeah, I studied sport management. I was in that program, started a business, and then that business was selling phone cases, and we marketed through social media. And I was like, I'm paying this Instagram page $1,000. I sell $1,200 worth of phone cases. After shipping, product, customer service, I make $100, and they made $1,000. So I'm gonna get into the media side of this and the distribution side. And obviously, what you learn is similar to how athletes want to be rappers and rappers want to be athletes. Media wants to have product, and product wants to have media. And so I think that's kind of helped us realize, okay, build media, build distribution, but the end goal will be selling our own product, which, as we discussed, trivia today, experiences tomorrow, and who knows what in the future. So yeah, I graduated, went to New York, went to work at Action Network right as PASPA was repealed. So I got fully thrown into that industry. I've been in that from the start. Worked at Whistle Sports for a few months, or for like a year and a half. COVID hit, and I always said, I remember doing the calculations. It's like about $300 a day. I said, if I could make $300 a day, I could make $100,000. I could pay my rent in New York. I could eat, and I could reinvest, $20,000 into the business. And so COVID kind of spun that, plus people learned how to do this. So content became easier, right? Virtually. You didn't need to be in person. We could interact with athletes virtually. So the podcast was doing really well. So we just got a bunch of different opportunities. I went full time in early 2021. And so now it's crazy to think it's been like 4.5 years full time, but it started in 2017. And so we're 8 years down. And so, the entrepreneurial journey, like any entrepreneur, the real story is you got to be in it for the long haul. You never know what's going to happen, but it's a long game. Think about how long we've been connected for. and this is the first time we're doing a podcast together, right? And I'm sure we'll do something together 10 years from now, but in the moment you're a young kid, you think everything needs to happen now.